Hey folks, good morning. Well, it's morning here anyway. In fact, I'm inviting you to join me for my morning coffee because I've just turned on the camera and I've decided that I want to have a chat. This is a very impromptu video. No script, no plan, so it could go anywhere. But the reason I wanted to come on and talk about it is actually, it's a topic that I've wanted to discuss for a while. But it was really prompted by a conversation that happened in one of the Facebook groups that I'm a member of, a tarot-related Facebook group. And the broad background to it is the issue was raised about a video which somebody had seen, and I haven't seen the video myself, so I'm not commenting specifically on that, in which somebody apparently implied that if you are someone who owns lots of tarot decks, you cannot be spiritual. Or if you're someone who owns lots of tarot decks, that must mean that your spending is out of control and you're living beyond your means and you are you're more of a consumer than a spiritual person. So on the face of it, of course, nonsense. And the conversation that happened in that group was very much along those lines, that this is nonsense. There was some nuanced conversation in there as well about, well, of course, sometimes people do get into trouble with their spending, or they start experiencing that fear of missing out and buy tarot decks that they then don't use. But the general consensus, and it's certainly one that I agree with, was that having a lot of tarot decks certainly is no indication that you're unspiritual, whatever that would even mean anyway. Here's what I know about people who have lots of tarot decks. What I know about them is that they have lots of tarot decks, and that is it. That is all you can tell about somebody who has lots of tarot decks. And all you can tell about somebody who has very few tarot decks is that they have very few tarot decks. That's all you can tell about them. The number of tarot decks you have is utterly irrelevant to how spiritual or not spiritual you are, how nice or not nice you are, how intelligent or not intelligent you are, or even how much of a tarotist you are. So the kind of flip side of it, and it's something that really kind of hurts my heart when I hear it, is that I've had some people approach me and say, I'm not really a part of the tarot community or the or not just the tarot YouTube community, but the tarot community in general, because I'm interested in tarot, but I only have 1 or 2 tarot decks. Well, again, nonsense. If you are interested in tarot, if you love tarot, if you have a passion for tarot, that can manifest itself in so many different ways, and the number of decks you have is irrelevant. Now, in relation to the tarot YouTube community, I love the fact that there are a real mix of people out there. Some who have lots of decks and who focus on sharing the decks they have with others. So I'm thinking here about people like Kelly from The Truth in Story and Simon from Hermit's Cave, who provide a wonderful service of sharing the decks that they have, and they obviously have large collections, and they share those collections with great generosity with the rest of us. And it's wonderful having people like that on YouTube, because it allows us to see what's happening and it allows us to see what's going on with various different decks. And then there are other people, and I'm thinking here about someone like Jeff Burr from Tattooed Spirit, who I know for quite a long time. I've got no idea how many decks he actually owns, but in terms of his YouTube channel, for quite a while he mainly focused on his wonderful self-modified Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And then I remember the point at which he eventually bit the bullet and got the Pagan Otherworlds deck. And so Jeff's an example of somebody who doesn't show multiple decks all the time. What he does instead is he goes into tarot from a different angle. He looks at all kinds of self-development methods through tarot. And of course, Simon and Kelly do that as well, but they do it from different angles. And I love the fact that there's that multiplicity in YouTube, that you can go to people who have lots and lots of decks and who share them, and then you go to people who have fewer decks and they focus in on them a bit more firmly. I want all of that. It would be so boring to me if everyone had multiple decks and was just doing nothing but walkthroughs. And equally, it would be so boring to me if people were only saying, oh, here's my latest thing with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. We want all of that. And in terms of whether you are a part of this community or whether you're a spiritual person and so on, just know that the number of decks you have has nothing to do with any of that. And if you're somebody who's watching my videos and you haven't, you know, participated in a conversation either in my Facebook group or in the comments under the video, and nobody of course is obliged to have, you know, to participate in those conversations, but if you're somebody who has held back from participating because you don't feel that you're part of the community because you haven't got many decks, please join in. You know, if you have one deck, even if you have no decks but you're interested in tarot, then you're very welcome here, and I really would want to hear from you. My only proviso in terms of people participating in my groups or on my videos is that people maintain a degree of civility with each other. So I'm quite happy for people to disagree, either with me or with each other, as long as it's done civilly. And you know, I can take a lot of flack without it particularly bothering me, because it takes quite a lot to offend me. What I'm very clear about though is if anyone makes an ad hominem attack on somebody else in one of my groups or in the comments below, then they are out of here. And you know, so please join in, whether you're somebody who has a mountain of decks or somebody who only has one. Please feel free to join in with what we're discussing here and on other YouTube channels. And you know, the only thing I would suggest, and this is something that is very dear to my heart, because I'm participating, like many other people, in depth this year, and I'll put some details about depth here below, is that the only person whose business it is how many decks you own is yours. And if it's okay with you, it's okay. So, you know, I've had the experience, I'm sure many people have had the experience of buying decks that you then think, well, I didn't really need this. And I've even had the experience of going for a deck that I lusted after, more than one, that I've lusted after for many months, and eventually I've got around to buying, and then when I've got them I've been a little bit disappointed. And there are other decks that I got kind of on a whim, didn't really think I would particularly take to them, and they are now my most beloved decks. So you know, collections build up for a number of different reasons, and people collect tarot decks for a number of different reasons. Some of us do it because we're interested in the history of tarot, and you'll get people who will say things like, well, why do you need more than one version of the Tarot de Marseille? Well, if you love the Marseille version of tarot, then seeing little nuances and differences in different variations of that deck can be very exciting. Or you might want to see how the deck has progressed historically from version to version to version. And it's the same with the Rider-Waite-Smith, and it's the same with Thoth-based decks and all of the others. And there is no right tarot deck. So all this nonsense and snobbery about, you know, the only viable deck to have is a Rider-Waite-Smith or a Thoth or a Marseille, all of that's rubbish as well. You know, you can have any tarot deck if it resonates with you and it works for you and you enjoy it. So here's my tip. If you are concerned about whether you have got your tarot collection in alignment with yourself, here's what to do. Just, you know, look at your tarot shelves or open your tarot box or wherever it is you store your tarot decks, in several boxes in my case, and just ask yourself if you are comfortable with this. Do you feel okay with it? And if you feel okay with it, good for you. If you have lots of decks and you feel a bit of discomfort around that because you feel you're not using them, or you feel you've got too many, well, you've got options. You could sell them, you could give them away, or you could put them back into circulation, you could put them back into rotation. You know, why not make a celebration of the number of decks you have? Display them. Whatever it is you want to do with them, enjoy them. If you're someone who only has one deck and you feel like you should be branching out and you haven't got around to it, well, maybe now is the time to take the plunge. Pick another deck and go for it and just see what it says to you, see where it leads you. All of it is okay. You know, there is nothing, there's no right answer when it comes to the number of decks you have or don't have. And it has nothing to do with how spiritual or unspiritual you are. Again, whatever spiritual even means. All I know is that I've encountered people who have got lots of decks, and within the group of people I have encountered who have lots and lots of decks, there are some people who I would, well, let me just put it this way. There's some people who I'd be more inclined to have a cup of coffee with than others. And the same with people who have only a few decks. So it all comes down to individuality, individual personalities, individual interests. And you know, the number of tarot decks that somebody has is no barometer of anything, especially if the judgment is coming from outside that person themselves. Now, for myself, I have been through this process of collecting tarot decks and owning quite a lot of tarot decks, and recently I've because of the depth year experience, I've had the very liberating experience of clearing some space on my bookshelves and on my tarot shelves, and I've got rid of quite a lot of tarot decks by selling them or giving them away. And what's interesting to me is that there were some decks that I got rid of, that I passed along, that were decks that I lusted after and really wanted. Sometimes because they were decks that I felt I should own, because they were decks that were big in the tarot community, but I just didn't connect with them. And sometimes I didn't even notice that I hadn't connected with them until I realised I had not used them or even looked at them for months. And I've let them go with love and with enjoyment. And there are other decks that I bought on a whim, didn't really think much of. Maybe they were cheap as chips on Amazon and I bought them, and I love them, and they are like soul decks to me. So, you know, it's all okay if it's okay with you. So, yes, so basically that's my summary of my view on that. You know, have as many decks as you like, or as few decks as you like. But most of all, if you want to be part of this tarot community and you're interested in tarot, then join in and be part of this tarot community. You are welcome, regardless of how many decks you own, regardless of what type of tarot deck you own, regardless of what model of tarot you subscribe to, whether it's psychological or spiritual or energetic or fortune telling or self-development, whatever it is, there is not a right or wrong answer. The only thing that's right is what's right for you. So that's my short ramble. I'm going to go and finish my coffee now, and I might make another video actually because I've got a bit of time to do that. So I hope you're all well, and I'll see you all again very soon. Take care.